ज्ञानानन्दमयदेवस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री कृष्ण भगवान की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रीमद श्री ब्रह्म संहिता की जय। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवम्। हरे कृष्ण dear devotees. So we will continue our study of Shri text from Shri Brahma Samhita. So last week we read and discussed the text 54, where Brahmaji is glorifying Krishna as one who basically the Indra Gopa is the one of the smallest insect, and Indra all are performing their karma according to the reactions what they have achieved in their previous life, and because they are bound by the karmic reactions what they have done, and according to their bandhanurupa phala bhajanam atanoti, according to the phala of those karma they are performing their activities. But Krishna by his mercy can eradicate or burn all the reactions of karma, whatever state it may be, for everyone, but for whom? One who is engaged in his devotional service. Karmani nirdhati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. And to that Krishna, Brahmaji is saying, govindam ādi-puruṣaṁ tamaham bhajāmi. So today we are continuing to the next verse, which is another beautiful verse. यं krodha-kāma-sahaja-praṇayādi-bhīti vātsalya-moha-guru-gaurava-sevya-bhāvaiḥ sañcintya tasya sadṛśīṁ tanum āpurete govindam ādi-puruṣaṁ tamahaṁ bhajāmi. So again here he starts with yam, which refers to Krishna. About him he is referring his glories. So he's saying here yam, krodha, kama and sahaja-praṇayādi-bhīti. Krodha means one who meditates on Krishna or who engages in Krishna's thinking by anger, wrath, krodha, or kama with lusty desires or amorous passion, or sahaja pranaya means natural friendly affection or with friendship, or one who is thinking of Krishna by bhiti. Bhiti means bhaya or fear, fearfulness, or vatsalya. Vatsalya means parental affection, just like Vasudeva and Devaki, or Nanda Maharaj and Yashodam Mata. Or moha, or somebody who wants to forget Krishna and who wants to be illusioned, and he thinks of Krishna as some just great personality, just under the illusion. Or Guru Gaurava. Guru Gaurava means somebody who accepts Krishna out of reverence, or who accepts Krishna as a great personality, or because he worships or he thinks of him as a supreme. And sevya-bhāvaiḥ by service attitude, by bhava of serving him, just like Hanumanji is one of the best examples that we always think when Dasyaras is referred. So one who is thinking of him in the mood of serving him. Sañcintya, in meditating. So in these different emotions, when somebody is everybody is meditating, tasya sadṛśīṁ tanum āpurete. So accordingly, their mood or their emotion in which they are meditating on Krishna or in which they are thinking of Krishna with all these emotions or all these bhava, even anger or lusty desire or friendly relationship or fear or parental affection or serving attitude. Tasya sadṛśīṁ tanum āpurete. According to their bhava, they attain a bodily form which they can think of him or they can meditate on Krishna with their bhava. So, sadṛśīṁ, tanum means body, and according to their tasya sadṛśīṁ, according to their bhava, which are described here, they get certain type of body, and to that Govinda, then Brahmaji is saying, Govindam ādi-puruṣaṁ, to that primeval Lord, who is original personality of Godhead, ādi-puruṣaṁ, tam ahaṁ bhajāmi, to him I worship, to him I offer my obeisances. So very beautiful here. So he is saying here, I adore the primeval Lord Govinda. The meditators are whom, by meditating upon him under the sway of wrath, amorous passion, natural friendly love, fear, parental affection, delusion, reverence, and willing service, attain to bodily forms befitting the nature of their contemplation. So, in the nature that they are contemplating, so that they can reciprocate with that nature, they attain certain type of body, and that is, of course, subtle and uh, gross and subtle body, so that they can reciprocate with Krishna according to their bhava. And just like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita also, ye yatha mam prapadyanti tam sathaiva bhajāmi, that in which mode anybody surrenders to me, I reciprocate with him accordingly. So he gives them the body and the conditions accordingly so that they can uh, engage in his meditation. They can think of him in that specific bhava, what they want to think of Krishna. So very beautiful verse here. So, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes very beautiful purport here. He gives the different rasas in which devotees and all the living entities think of Krishna. So he begins with devotion is of two kinds. That is, of the nature of difference of regulation, that is the Vaidhi Bhakti, by when somebody wants to follow or worship Krishna according to rules and regulations given in the Shastra, in the Vedic scripture. And the second one is constituted of natural feeling. That is that comes to you spontaneously, or what we call as ragatmika bhakti, that is spontaneous, which actually is in every living entity. It is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, as we read, that Krishna Bhakti Nitya Siddha Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaye Uday. That Krishna Bhakti or Krishna Prema is there in every single living entity. Every jiva has Krishna Prema. But because it is covered by so many different types of desires and impurities, it is not displayed, and that's why Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Uday, when that living entity engages in the activities of Shravana, hearing from authority or reading from the scriptures, and somehow or other he reads from the scriptures and hear about Krishna's pastime, Shuddha Chitte, with pure heart, that Krishna Bhakti is aroused, Karaya Uday. So he further says that bhakti is roused by following with a tinge of faith. So faith is the beginning when bhakti begins in a living entity's heart. Ādau shraddha tata sadhu sanga. that we read from the Bhagavad Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as Rupa Goswami explains the different stages of bhakti. So, because he has faith in the rules of the Shastra and the instructions of the perpetrators, perpetrators or acharyas, such bhakti is of the nature of loyalty to the scriptural regulations. Because once they start hearing about they start having faith in the Shastra and what they read and hear from authorities about from the Shastra, and then they start worshipping, and that's how the Vaidhi bhakti, or the initial stages, the first stage of bhakti starts, that by following the rules and regulations. It continues to be operative as long as the corresponding natural feeling is not aroused. So one may continue in his Vaidhi bhakti in the beginning stage, and it's not about the time, how much time one spends, it's the intensity, how much intensity he has develops for love of Krishna. That's where it depends when he goes to the next stage. So if a person loves Krishna out of natural tendency, there is a principle of raga or attachment. And that's where raga, nuga, and ragatmika bhakti starts. So ragatmika bhakti is when somebody like the gopis in the Vrindavan, they already have so much love for Krishna that they don't need to have faith in Shastra or anything. They just love Krishna. They don't need any instructions, they don't need any guidance, or they don't need to follow anybody. But when somebody follows the gopis, the mood of gopis, how they serve, or somebody follows through the instructions of Acharya and develops that love, that is Raga Anuga. Anuga means to follow. Raga Anuga Bhakti. So these different stages, as we study more and more from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is no other than the strong desire to serve. Raga or attachment is very strong desire to serve, which turns into bhava. So after the raga nuga, when different stages, what we read even from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, tato nishta, tato ruchi, and after ruchi is where raga develops or attachment develops, and then tato bhava. So bhava is very strong feeling or substantive feeling for Krishna, always thinking of Krishna, always trying to serve him in some or the other way. When the substantive feeling is aroused, the devotee becomes the object of mercy of Krishna. And that's the stage where Krishna starts showering his mercy and love in the bhava stage. It takes much time to attain this stage. Devotion, which is of the nature of feeling, is superior to that connected with the scriptural. So the scriptural injunctions, when somebody starts develops bhakti for Krishna, so that at that stage they still need guidance, and they are still chances of wavering, or it's on and off. But when the bhakti or devotion, which is of the nature of feeling, when one develops a very strong feeling, that is considered from the raga stage, raga, bhava, ruchi, bhava, and prema. These are considered as superior as compared to the regulation, and soon attains to the realized state and is attractive to Krishna. That type of bhakti is most attractive to Krishna. And we always see that Krishna, the name Krishna, is because he is all attractive. Because everybody is attracted to him. But name Krishna is also, he is also all attracted. He also actually, because he is source of everything. So, and he's equal to all the living entities. Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosya priya. But ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyam. He also is attracted to others when they starts developing love for him. And he's attracted to all the devotees also. Who are, and that we see in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, how he is also attracted to gopis, he is also attracted to Radharani. So he is not only all attractive, but he is also all attracted. And when somebody shows that love for him, immense love for him. He is very attracted to them. So it's various aspects that are described in this shloka. And in this shloka, then what Brahmaji described is the different emotions: krodha, kama, vātsalya, bhaya, all these different emotions in which living entities are attracted to Krishna. But in the devotion, as we understand, in the devotional service or in the bhakti, there are primary five rasas, and that's what in the purport further described. So Shanta Bhava or Shanta Rasa is full of reverence to superior. So there, in the Shanta Rasa, the devotee has very high respect, out of reverence, very high respect and to Krishna, and then he worships, he accepts him as great, the supreme, and then he starts worshipping him as the supreme. But after that, in the dasya bhava, full of service, of carrying out the commands of the object of worship, there is actual engagement of service in that supreme personality. And that's where dasya bhava is developed. And dasya, obviously, it includes all the next bhavas or rasas, include the previous all plus additional more. So dasya is engaging in direct service. Then after dasya, in the sakhya bhava, or naturally, there is a natural friendly love. Then in the vatsalya bhava or parental affection, just like the we hear about Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata particularly, that they are always engaged in his service. And Yashoda Mata is so protective of Krishna that she doesn't want him to get hurt, or she's, if needed, she wants to correct him. And we all are very fond of the Damodar Leela, where she is running after him with a stick. So even she wants to correct him because he may be just like any mother. He's doing something wrong, so she wants to chastise him just out of love. So that is vatsalya bhava. And then madhurya or madhura bhava or amorous love are all included in the category of devotion of nature of instinctive attachment. That is instinct, that just spontaneous love pouring for Krishna in these all bhavas, different bhavas. But anger, fear, delusion, though they are of nature of instinctive impulse, they are not considered as the, what do you call, anyabhilashitashanyam jnana karmadhanavatam anukulena krishnanushilanam. So they are not considered anukula, they are pratikula. So somebody who is in anger, or somebody who is in fear, or somebody who has animosity towards Krishna, somebody treats himself as enemy. But even in that case, they are always thinking of Krishna. Even in those emotions, they are given salvation or liberation. Are not devotion in the strict sense of term, because they are not friendly, but they are hostile to the object. They are hostile towards Krishna because they are thinking of in negative emotion about Krishna. But still they are considered actually better than not thinking about Krishna. Yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayat. Anger is found in the asuras like Shishupal, fear in Kamsa, and delusion in the Panditas of pantheistic school. So these are some examples. Anger, fear, Krishna, Kamsa was always fearful of Krishna. Shishupal was always very envious of Krishna. But still they got salvation because they were always thinking of Krishna. They have the feeling of anger, fear, and instinctive impulse marked by complete self-forgetful identification with the non-differentiated Brahman. But as there is no friendly feeling towards the object of devotion, there is no bhakti in these emotions. But they are always, even though they are always thinking, it is not considered as bhakti. Again, among the feelings of Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhura Shanta, though indifferent and dormant in raga, is still reckoned as bhakti on account of being a little friendly. So all these rasas are friendly, and that's why they are considered as bhakti. There is an immense volume of raga in the other four varieties of emotion. So other than Shanta, the Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya has immense volume of raga. There is more raga, or there is more attachment, because of attachment somebody wants to serve him, somebody wants to be friendly with him, or somebody wants to be in parental affection or loving affection with him. So just as we said in Bhagavad Gita, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajāmi ahaṁ, that Krishna I says that I serve one according to his submission. With the mode one submits to me, I reciprocate him according to that bhava, and I serve him. That's what Krishna also says. So those who allow themselves to be actuated by sentiment of fear, anger, and delusion attain sayujya mukti. So there are five different types of liberations: sayujya, sarupya, salupya, samipya, and sashti. So out of that sayujya, or merging in the effulgence of the Lord, so these that is attained by somebody who is thinking of Krishna in the fear, anger, or delusion. But the Shantas obtain bodily form according to, they can go to they either get Salokya or Samipya. Uh, they can live in the, or Sarupya, according to their nature, and then they can serve directly with awe and with reverence. So they can attain Vaikuntha planet. The Dasya and Sakya classes worshippers attain bodily form characterized by masculine and feminine disposition according to their respective grades of eligibility. So in Dasya, when one has a serving attitude or a friendly attitude, in which mood they have serving attitude, accordingly they will get the bodily form, either male or female, in which mood they want to serve him, and they get that form and reciprocate with Krishna according to. In the Vatsalya class of worshippers, they get bodily form befitting for fatherly or motherly sentiment, and the amorous lovers of Krishna attain the pure forms of gopis in the spiritual kingdom, spiritual milky maids of Raja. So when one has very intense love for Krishna and they want to have madhurya ras, or amorous ras, then they attain this form. So it doesn't matter in what form, but Krishna is said that Krishna, in whatever emotion or whatever rasa one is thinking of Krishna, Krishna gives them the body or the form accordingly, so that they can have that reciprocal relationship with Krishna. And Krishna also wants to reciprocate with those living entities accordingly. There are some very beautiful verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. If you remember, in the beginning of the 7th canto, actually, Yudhishthir Maharaj, in the Rajasuya Yajna, when Shishupal was killed by Krishna, everybody saw that Shishupal, a spark from Shishupal's body, his soul, went to Krishna and merged into Krishna. And Yudhishthir was very surprised. How come this happened? That Shishupal, who was so inimical to Krishna, who was so envious and who was always blaspheming Krishna, but still he got Sayujya Mukti. How can this be possible? And then he raised this question to Narada Muni. And that's where Narada Muni gave some very beautiful verses. There are few very beautiful verses in here. Let me go to. I think from verse 26. So when he asked Narada Muni, so the Narada Muni says that, therefore, by enmity, so he gives these 5 different emotions by which one can think of Krishna and still get liberation. So by enmity, even thinking Krishna as his enemy, by devotional service, by bhakti, by fear, just like Kamsa, by affection, or by lusty desires. With these 5 emotions, by all these or any one of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same for the Lord, because of his blissful position and is never affected by the enmity or friendship. So if somebody has very intense emotion for Krishna and he's always thinking of Krishna, in either of these five emotions, Lord accepts him and gives him liberation accordingly. And here he continues, Narad Muni continues that by devotional service, one cannot achieve such intense absorption of the thought of Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through enmity towards him. That is, Narad Muni says that when he's referring to the uh, Shishupal's intensity, generally, if you think, even in our day-to-day life, a negative thought always has very intense nature in our mind. Other than even with a friend, if he does something wrong and we think that he or she does something wrong or doesn't pay attention to me, I would be thinking all day or many times long, many days, why did he or she do that to me? Why didn't he speak to me? Because the negative thoughts always have more intensity. And that's where Lord Narada Muni says that the intensity of absorption in the thoughts of Supreme Personality of Godhead is more when somebody has enmity towards him. And he gives a very beautiful example here, actually. So he says that a grassworm, so we all see the honeycomb, right? And the honeybees, they catch some worm as food and they stick in there. And when a grassworm confined in the whole wall by the bee, always thinks of the bee in the fear, because even though the bee is not there, he's always out of fear that grassworm, you're always thinking of the bee, that at any point that bee will come and sting me. Thinks of the bee in the fear and enmity, and later becomes the bee simply because of such remembers. And eventually that grassworm becomes a bee in next life. Similarly, if a conditioned soul somehow or other thinks of Krishna, who is Sachidananda Vigraha, they will become free from their sins just by thinking, even in enmity. Whether thinking of him is as their worshipable Lord or an enemy, because of constantly thinking of him, they will regain their spiritual bodies. And then here, couple of very beautiful verses. He says that he gives the different personalities, how they got, or how they, different examples, who is engaged in thinking in different emotions. So here first he says, Kamad, Dveshad, Bhayat, Snehad, Yatha, Bhakti, Ishware, Manah. So one can engage his mind in Kamad, with lusty desires, Dveshad, with enviousness, Bhayat, out of fear, Snehad, out of affection, or Yatha Bhakti, or as a devotion. One engages in mind, Aveshantadagam Hitva, Bahastam, Tad Gatim Tatha. But it doesn't matter in what emotion they are thinking, they all can get liberation. So he says many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention and giving up their sinful activities. This attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service. And then he says, I shall explain now how one receives Krishna's mercy simply by concentrating one's mind upon him in any of these five emotions. And then he gives some examples here. Gopi Kama, Gopya, all the gopis out of lusty or amorous passion for him. Bhayat Kamsa, out of fear, who the example is Kamsa. Dveshad Chedya, Chediraj, Shishupal, who is out of envy. Chedyadayana Nrupa, Shishupal and other kings who are of very envious towards Krishna. Sambandha Vrishnaya, and out of affection or relation, all the Vrishnis who are relatives of Krishna. And Snehad Yuyam, out of Sneha Yuyam, he is mentioning about Pandavas, you Pandavas. He is talking to Yudhishthir Maharaj here. And Bhaktya Vayam, and out of Bhakti Vayam means devotees like us, Narad Muni says. We have attained mercy of Krishna. So, my dear King Yudhishthir, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, and Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affliction for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by devotional service, have attained mercy of Krishna. And then here he says, Manak Krishna Niveshet. It doesn't matter in which form, somehow or other, you always engage your mind in Krishna. You always think of Krishna. So somehow or other, one must consider the form of Krishna very seriously. Then, by one of the 5 different processes or emotions mentioned above, one can return home back to Godhead. Atheists like King Vena, however, being unable to think of Krishna from in Krishna's form in any of these 5 ways, cannot attain salvation. Therefore, one must somehow think of Krishna, whether in friendly way or inimically. So here, I think the comparison Yudhishthir Maharaj asked was, when Vena died, he did not merge into Krishna, but uh, but how Shishupal, when he was killed by Krishna, how he merged into Krishna, because Vena had no thinking of Krishna, but Shishupal was always thinking of Krishna. So these are some very beautiful examples, actually, very nice. So that's what I think I'll stop. I had some more, but I'll stop here. It's 9:32 already. So that's what Brahmaji is also referring here, that yam krodha-kāma-sahaja-praṇayādi-bhīti vātsalya-moha-guru-gaurava-sevya-bhāvaiḥ sañcintya tasya sadṛśīṁ tanum āpurete govindam ādi-puruṣaṁ tamuham bhajāmi. It doesn't matter in what emotion somebody is thinking of Krishna. Krishna is so merciful that he, by his mercy, give them according body, appropriate body, so that they can reciprocate with him in that emotion. To that Govinda, Brahmaji says, I worship. Govindam ādi-puruṣaṁ tamaham bhajāmi. So I'll stop here and we can take some reflections. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any thoughts or reflections, devotees?
Thank you very much, Radhā-Rañjana.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
This is almost towards the end of the course. No? So beautifully, you especially highlighted the bhīti, the fear aspect. One can attain Krishna even through the fear. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, yena kena prakarena manak Krishna niveshet.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how. But if you can do it anukulena, that's always better.
Yeah. Krishna being absolute, somehow one has to focus on mind in Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions in Harinam Chintan, he says, there were demons or people like Nahusha, Vena, and Nahusha and Vena, especially mentioned 2 people. They never focus their mind on Krishna. So therefore, they could not attain the better destination. But demons like Ravana, Kamsa, and everyone else, they actually focus their mind on Krishna. So they were benefited. But Nahusha and Vena were the 2 people who he gives example that Vena was cursed, right? Because he was not inimical towards also God. He did not connect himself with God anyway. He was just an atheist.
Yeah, he was thinking himself as God.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is so wonderful that somehow that one comes in contact with Krishna, becomes purified.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Your about how Kamsa and Shishupala has remembering, even though they got cursed, they are giant Vijaya and they transform into Shishupala and Ravana, but they are surrender. Even this all the time they was remembering Lord Rama and Krishna every time. And in our hearts also we have both we should think about, I mean, we are loving Krishna, but we are not hating Krishna. But constantly remembering is more important. And about these leelas, if you remember all these leelas also, at least we can step forward in our life whenever it comes on our ending of our life.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranam.
Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Shri Prabhu. Very nicely explained, Prabhu. I was confused about a little bit about what is the difference between these different kinds of demons who are actually envious of Krishna or think they are better than Krishna. For example, Shishupal thought he's better than Krishna.
Mhm.
That's why always whenever somebody glorified Krishna or
Mhm.
gave respect to him, he felt that, you know, he was a person supposed to deserve that respect, and that's why he was always cursing Krishna by various ill names. And you know, and then we have Pondraka, who was imitating as if he is Krishna, and you know,
Mhm.
and then there is Vena we spoke about, which he's he thinks he is God, you know. So these similar kind of mentalities in different degrees. So how can we understand that, you know, is it because Shishupal was in this particular Shishupala incarnation, he was actually the devotee, Jai Vijay.
Mhm.
That's the reason he had to go back and take another, you know, there were 3 births as demon he has to take. That's
Mhm.
the reason he attained, or anybody in general, or what is that differentiates these people?
So that's what I think we talked about it. Difference. That's what Yudhishthir Maharaj asked about difference between Vena and Shishupal. That Shishupal, why did he get liberation, but not Vena? So the difference that is said that Shishupal was always thinking of Krishna, even in inimical way. He was always thinking of Krishna. He was meditating on Krishna in a negative mode. But Vena he had nothing to do with Krishna. He was thinking he is supreme. He was just trying to enjoy and just disrupt the whole nature. So he was not thinking of Krishna. And that is the difference. And that's what Narad Muni explains, that somehow or other, if somebody is always thinking of Krishna in all these 5 different emotions, he mentions that the anger, fear, love, bhakti, or affection, then they can get salvation. So even Shishupal, in a negative way, was thinking of Krishna all the time. Same thing about Kamsa. That's why they got salvation, but not Vena. And as Shankaran Prabhu also mentioned about Nahusha.
Who is Nahusha, Prabhu? Could you elaborate about him?
Shankaran Prabhu, Nahusha was one of the king, but can you add more to that?
Nahusha was one of the king. He was ancestors of Pandava, you know, in the same dynasty he appeared. So he was son of forgetting who was his father. Anyway, he was in Chandravamsha only in the same dynasty. So he became the king when Indra was, you know, because of you know, killing who was the demon, you know, who was actually Vaishnava. Vaishnava demon, you know, that 6th canto of Bhagavatam describes. I'm forgetting the name. Vritasur, yeah. So after Indra killed Vritasur, then he was hiding. He was hiding in the lotus stem because of the fear of the sinful reactions. That time, you know, the Supreme Lord, by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, Nahusha was made into the king of heavenly planets, Indra. So he occupied the post of Indra that time. And that time, Nahusha misbehaved towards the wife of Indra, saying that since I am Indra now, the Sachi becomes my wife as well, you know, because she's the wife of Indra. So whoever occupies the position of Indra, she becomes his wife. So then he got cursed and he became a python. And later on, he was delivered by Yudhishthira Maharaj in the forest. Pandava, I think Bhima, he coiled the Bhima, and then Bhima or Yudhishthira Maharaj, I think they relieved him from the curse by killing him and sending him back again to heavenly planets.
Nahusha was father of Yayati.
Yeah, Nahusha was father of Maharaj Yayati.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Really.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I think we'll stop here then. Okay. Thank you very much, devotees. So we'll see you.
Radhā-Rañjana Prabhu. Beautiful
Thank you very
explanation.
much. Hare Krishna.
Panchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhu च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.